of the time zone you're on, which one you prefer?
Yeah, 4:30 in the morning wake up is early enough for me.
No,
So
well,
otherwise
for
it'd be
me
like
tomorrow.
3:30, right?
Oh, yeah.
So let's see. Did Lindsay come on?
She's there.
Oh, there she is right there. Hey, Linz.
Hey,
We're discussing weighty matters here.
I could tell.
Okay. I've got 7 o'clock almost. Which clock I'm looking at? 7. Okay. I don't want to say 1. All right, I'll call the special select.
Recording in progress.
I will call the special select board meeting of Monday, November 7th to order. And the first item is approval of the agenda.
I move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any requests for change?
We have an executive session.
We do have an executive session. Need for on real estate matters. Is there anything else? Hearing nothing else, all in favor of the agenda as drafted with the addition of an executive session, please vote yes.
Yes?
Aye. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay. We're going to call Susan Shashuk, our town moderator, forward to lead us in a special town meeting.
Thank you, Brian. The legal voters of the town of Middlebury in the county of Addison, the state of Vermont, are hereby warned and notified to meet at the large conference room, Middlebury Town Offices at 77 Main Street in Middlebury, with access via video conference also available on Monday, November 7th, 2022 at 7 p.m. for an informational meeting on Article 1, and on Tuesday, November 8th from 7 a.m. through 7 p.m. at the Recreation Center at 154 Creek Road in Middlebury to vote by Australian ballot on Article 1 as provided by 24 VSA 1061-2 in the Middlebury Town Charter. As the warning states, this is an informational only town meeting, so no action will be taken on Article 1 tonight. I traditionally take a few moments to review participation and housekeeping items, but based on tonight's unusual situation, I've decided to mix it up a little bit, and we'll be diving right into tonight's Article 1, and I'll address the rest only if we need to as we go along. And at this time, I was going to invite Brian Carpenter to speak a little bit about Article. Oh, I can't do it. I have to read the article first. Sorry. Mixing it up even more. Article 1, the question is, shall the legal voters of the town of Middlebury approve the current deed of easement agreement as approved by the Middlebury Selectboard at their meeting on June 28th, 2022, and convey to Vermont Gas Systems a land easement to install gas service to 3 Mill Street? Okay, Brian, now you can.
Okay. Just as a little background and to read it into the record, at its meeting on June 28th, the Select Board approved a request from Vermont Gas Systems for an easement on a parcel of town-owned property that would allow the company to install natural gas service to 3 Mill Street. The approval triggered a required 30-day public notification and comment period under 24 VSA Section 1061. Regarding the conveyance of town-owned land. The board authorized Town Manager Kathleen Ramsey to work with Town Council to initiate the notification process, and if no objection was raised within the 30-day period prescribed by Section 1061 to sign the deed of easement. On August 3rd, Town Clerk Ann Webster reported that resident Ross Conrad submitted a citizen's petition in response to the board's June 28th decision to grant the easement to Vermont Gas. The petition seeks to put the matter before Middlebury voters on the general election ballot in November. And the petition included 291 verified signatures, which was 5% of the 5,819 registered voters required by statute in order for it to be placed on the ballot. Subsequently, on September 1st, the Select Board received an email from Dave Walker, the Gas Control and Right-of-Way Supervisor for Vermont Gas, notifying the town that the contractor was able to install gas service to 3 Mill Street without entering the town's right-of-way, and therefore the request for an easement was no longer needed. Regarding the citizens petition that had already been filed, calling for a special town meeting in November to discuss whether the town should grant the easement, Town Manager Kathleen Ramsey informed the board that Town Council advised us to proceed with the meeting and the vote, as even though the matter is a moot point at this time. He explained that there is no explicit language in statute authorizing the board to rescind the meeting notice or cancel the town vote despite the changing circumstances. So we're doing this, and the hope was also that we might get some sort of a litmus test, but once I saw that everybody got mailed their ballot, it's going to be interesting how many people actually even vote. I will, for the record, also comment, though, Ross, one of the thoughts was that we were giving away the town property. And, I think our thoughts were that they're paying a pretty significant, so I looked up, I think it's like $375,000 in taxes for the infrastructure that is in Middlebury. That's their annual fee. So they're not getting a whole lot for free here. And we had authorized it for some other, access for some other businesses in Middlebury, and we felt that it was equitable to provide the same for the 3 Mill Street. And that was kind of the thought process the board went through at the time. And unfortunately, we'll see how many people vote, whether it's if we could get a good number of votes, it would give us an idea, at least it maybe inform our discussion on a future situation like this.
Thank you, Brian. Ross, since you're here, I was hoping to give you a chance to talk next. Please just state your name for the record, please.
Yes, Mrs. Moderator.
Thank you.
Ross Conrad, Burnham Drive, Middlebury. So the board probably might remember that because the select board didn't feel at the time that they wanted to delay approving the easement and to find out why the property owner wanted to install gas, and if there was any alternative that would not use fossil fuels, for example, that could do the same thing they wanted to do. And also didn't want to charge anything for the easement. I felt because Vermont Gas is part of the fossil fuel industry whose business activity is quite literally threatening everything we hold dear. I just felt that it would be better to put it to the voters. And so that's why I submitted the petition, got the number of signatures. I understand that they pay significant amount in taxes on the infrastructure they have, but so does anybody else that owns property, buildings, infrastructure in town. I don't think that precludes them of potentially at least paying for the land, town property that is unencumbered typically. And as you pointed out, lo and behold, when their ability to install gas pipeline to 3 Mill Street was impeded, they found that they could do it anyway. So it appears that Vermont Gas, at least in some instances, doesn't really need the town property. They're doing what industry has actually done for pretty much since the beginning of industry's history here in America, which is externalizing their expenses whenever they can and let the taxpayer, the public, pick up the tab because it helps to improve their profit margin. And so it appears that whenever they can find an easier route to install pipeline or a shorter route that can save them money, they're going to come and ask the town to perhaps give them the land. And as long as the select board's more than willing to, with few questions asked, give them the land with no charge. I mean, it's only a couple $1,000s typically for an easement. It's not like it's going to break the bank for them. It makes sense that they would always do that. And that's why I've committed that anytime in the future, should Vermont Gas do the same thing, request an easement here in town, and the select board does not make an effort to find out if there's alternative energy source that can supply the property owner with what they need to do that is better for the environment, and they don't, select board doesn't want to charge anything for the use of town property. And I would suggest maybe a third question would be, do they actually really need this to be able to service this property, or can they just do it another way that might cost them a few extra dollars? Then I'm going to most likely, if I'm able, collect the signatures and put it on the ballot to let the voters decide. So that's kind of where it stands. And I want to thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Ross. Is there any questions or comments from the board before I go online?
I have a question. I'm just not clear what actions we take are up for voter review. What's the process where an item on our agenda can be delayed for months until there's an election and put before the voters of the town
This is by state statute, specifically
for easements?
for easements.
Very good.
Conveyance of land is my understanding. Since we residents, taxpayers collectively own the town property, if you're going to give it away to or sell it to somebody or have someone else take possession, then the voters have an opportunity for a last word if they so choose. That's how I understand.
Very good. Thanks.
Anybody else on the board before I go on? Check on
just have a question. Is giving easement, giving away property? It's not, is it? It's just giving away the use.
Right.
It's a property right,
Yeah.
but they don't own the property. We still own the property, so it's just an easement. And it's underground.
Kathleen, is there anybody online who wishes to
Victoria
speak?
has her hand raised, and I'm trying to promote her to panelist. There she goes.
Go ahead, Victoria.
She's en route.
She's en route. We will wait for her, and don't forget to unmute when you get there, Victoria.
Can you hear me now?
You bet. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sympathetic to Ross's concerns, and I guess I'm because this ballot was not automatically mailed out to all residents, you may not get a clear picture of the sentiments of the town on this issue. And I guess I'm wondering in the future, should this kind of issue come up again, what's your thinking? Will it just have to go to a petition again, or would you might reconsider your policy on how to handle these kinds of easement requests?
Who would like to take that?
I'll take that.
Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Victoria, I think that's a situational issue on this particular case. I think we would do the same action that we took at the time. I think the board would stand firmly in support of providing that easement to the Mill Street the property. It's an older building. I get that we have a climate crisis, but you can't solve the climate crisis on every single deal. And some of these older buildings we're finding, like at the library, it's a major deal to change the heating system. And their heating system needed to be changed. It was a time-sensitive thing to get it done in time for the heating season. And well, they had a contractor, so they run a Airbnb out of there as well. So, I mean, I think that we made a very conscious decision, and I would stand by it once again.
Does that answer your question, Victoria?
I'm just. Me? Hello?
Yes?
Yeah, go ahead.
You're breaking up.
You're breaking up.
Oh, sorry. I'm just wondering about, charging for easements as opposed to giving away for free.
Who would like to take that one?
I'll take it. I mean,
Okay.
I think, again, it's a case-by-case basis. This was one building, and the easement that we gave across the back of the parking lot here,
It was in 2017.
was it 17?
Mm-hmm.
Good memory. Had an agreement in the easement that if we needed it moved, they would take care of moving it at no expense. And so, I mean, that's the type of kind of a win-win easement. It takes care of providing services to those within the town, but provides some latitude for future needs on the town's behalf. And
Well, that's wise, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Victoria.
My other understanding,
hang on.
sorry,
Is there anybody else online that's waiting?
No one has their hand raised.
Okay, go ahead, Annie.
my understanding is that the tax which is paid by Vermont Gas is based on the value of their distribution system in our town. And I don't know when that is reappraised, but my thought is that the more buildings that are connected to it, the higher the value and thus the tax paid by Vermont Gas will be. So while we are giving them an easement, they are increasing their capital investment and the value of their distribution network in our town.
Go ahead, Ross.
Right, yeah, I was going to say, Andy, yes, there's no reassessment. My understanding is there's a set, I think probably through the Public Utility Commission, set amount they pay, and that actually depreciates over time, so it gets less and less. And I think it's after maybe 30 years or something, they don't pay anything anymore. Even though the pipeline's good for at least 50 years, according to them.
Thank you, Ross. Is there any other questions or comments from the board? Anybody else online? It's your last shot at it.
Can I ask a question to Ross, if you don't mind?
Um,
So,
Go ahead. Sorry.
sorry.
Gotta go through the moderator.
I have to check to see if anybody else is raising their hand
No,
first
that's
before I go
fine,
to
that's
you.
fine.
Go ahead.
So you said earlier that because Vermont Gas uses fossil fuel, did you mean to say that the private property owners should be forced to not use them or encouraged not to use fossil fuel? How do we tell private property owners not to use fossil fuel?
Yeah, I don't think that's a position or something that the board should be doing at all. What I'm asking you to do is talk to Vermont Gas and not let them get free easements to hook up property owners when the gas may not be not only the best choice, given the efforts that the board is making to reduce fossil fuel use in town, but also clearly whether that is absolutely necessary to give up the land in order to get that property
Is it the
served.
same for all?
You're not
utility-
dealing with the property owner. You're dealing with Vermont Gas. This
Okay.
isn't telling the property owner what to do. It's telling Vermont Gas what they can do or not do with town property.
Are we doing the same with other utility companies, the GMP?
Yeah, I don't know how many of those other utility companies regularly come and ask for easements for free across town property that isn't already encumbered. My understanding is Vermont Gas, like all the other utilities, got granted an easement for all the town roads. So they could do like every utility. They could go down to town road, they come to the property, they go into the property. That's how they typically do it. Vermont Gas apparently, at least in this case, likes to take shortcuts. Instead of doing the long way around, if they can save some money apparently, or make an easier route, and the board's willing to just give them the land, why wouldn't they ask? Sure. I mean, if I was Vermont Gas, I'd probably do the same thing, but I'm not. I am a taxpayer, part of the property owners in town, along with you and everyone else. And so I take exception to that.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Okay.
You sure? Okay, it's okay to say no. And I just want to be careful with Ross. Usually you're only allowed to speak twice on one article. So I've been a little lenient. I just don't want it. I want to be careful with that too.
I'm
The
glad
future.
there's not a lot of people here.
It seemed appropriate,
Talk about this.
but technically it's one of those things. Kathleen, is there anybody else online before we close it out?
Anybody online want to raise your hand and address the board or address the moderator? No hands.
Is that all we got?
And is that, anybody else on the board have anything else? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this section of your meeting.
I move.
Is there a second? Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Farhad. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Your special town meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank
For
you,
your
Susan.
excellent moderation.
Oh, thank you. Usually it takes me 10 minutes to warm up. So
She's practicing.
it's time to go.
Okay, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Next item is approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. There's some very good minutes. Make sure you read the Energy Committee and Infrastructure minutes. We're getting into the to a lot of moving pieces, and to keep abreast of what's going on. That's good reading. If was Leon watching out there? We do plan to get the stakeholders together, and we just need to get through this budget cycle and get through the town meeting, and then actually, I think when were you projecting, Kathleen?
Mid-spring, April or so after town
so
meeting.
have to get through the town meeting, and then we're going to get onto this issue here. Other than that, note that we got some community engagement meetings for the Ilsley 100 project team. So is there anything else anybody would like to highlight, or is there anything anybody would like to talk about that's on the consent agenda?
More ARPA funds coming our way.
Oh, for the water.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Combined sewer overflow.
yeah.
I'm
That's,
assuming that's money we're putting towards South Street.
Correct.
was it 600,000 or something like that?
644.
Better yet.
Yeah.
10% better. Okay. All right. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as drafted, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Citizen comments. Unless somebody's got their hand up, we don't have anybody here. Is there anybody with their hand up? No, we're moving on. Next is the,
And we're meeting Monday night.
well, there was even a reminder sent out. So I
No,
feel
we're doing it above board.
we have a public hearing now. We're public hearing on the charter amendment for appointment of a town treasurer by the select board. In preparation for a March 6, 2023 town meeting, vote for a proposal to amend the town's charter to provide for the appointment rather than the election of the town treasurer. Tonight is an opportunity for the select board to take public testimony. In accordance with governing statutes 17 VSA 2641 and 17 VSA 2645, the board is conducting a public hearing to take questions and comments from the Middlebury community regarding a proposed change to the town's charter for the appointment rather than the election of town treasurer. If you have some comments, just please raise your hand out in the listening audience. And with that, I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone raising their hand out there? It's a busy night. So I would say, is there anything the board would like to say that would go in the minutes to inform those reading the minutes about
I
this?
just have a clarifying question.
Shoot.
I'm just curious, it says 5 select board members and we obviously have 7.
Further down, it tells
Is
us
there
we had the option to vote for 2 more. And we obviously did that somewhere in history.
Okay. I looked for an amendment or something
Yeah.
on here and I couldn't find
Isn't
it.
it?
Where is that? Oh, 2 additional, okay, the very last thing, okay.
Was this in the town's charter you're reading that?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Yeah, I just wondered if we were making a change.
We
If
should.
we change it to 7. But if it's, I was looking for some kind of amendment or something here that changed it and I couldn't see it, but thank you for pointing that out. I obviously didn't read careful enough towards the bottom.
Anybody else?
Hidden in there.
Yeah,
I guess I would just say the one thing that we still have an elected position for those who feel that it's important to elect a spokesperson to the town governance in the town clerk. We feel it's important for the amount of money that we're handling and how complex our accounting is, that we have somebody who's qualified. And this allows us to interview, check resumes, check background histories, and hire and hopefully retain for a longer period of time. Not that somebody's not going to stay if they're elected, but they could be subject also to being unelected. And so, because they have to keep running. So we just felt that at the level that our governance is, that this is a position that is not appropriate to be elected. And we're asking the voters to support us on this move. And if there's no hands raised, then with no further comments regarding the charter amendment for town treasurer, I'm going to call the public hearing closed. The next public hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, November 29th, 2022. And so if you're reading these or out there watching on TV and do have comments, we would ask you to please join us on November 29th. Next is Emily with us, or Dan, or
And Dan,
Emily and Dan. Okay.
There you go.
Good evening.
Good evening. Emma, are you on?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, okay.
We got you.
All right. So the first topic tonight is the capital improvements plan. At the last infrastructure committee meeting, the members went through the second draft, and that number was 1,700,000. I can't find that number right quick.
Well, you look in your draft too.
Yeah, I'm just gonna summarize what they went to.
728, I think.
$1,728,455.
Right. And so much discussion followed, and the committee came up with some following changes. Decided to reduce the set aside for the Charles Monroe intersection, reduced by $10,000, so there's $50,000 remaining. That was for in case we wanted to do anything with that building once we became owners to maybe eliminate an eyesore. Another topic that was discussed with the downtown transportation grant, we decided to remove that from the budget completely, so that was a $40,000 decrease. Postponed set aside of 1 year for contributing to the salt storage building. That was a $15,000 decrease. The Memorial Sports Center roof was decreased by $10,000. That gives us $15,000 remaining. And so the total reductions taken at that meeting was $1,653,455 is the final budget. So we're going to come back to you at the meeting after Thanksgiving and go through more detailed summary of the capital improvement budget. But that was the budget passed or supported by the committee and sent to you, the select board. Any questions you want to talk about, or we can save until the meeting later in November?
I think we're
Okay.
okay right now, Dan.
Okay. All right. Emily, you want to take this? Or you want me to do it?
I don't know, where are we headed?
We're headed to the SWSRF.
Oh, we should speak. Hang on, back up a minute, Dan, back to the infrastructure committee meeting. We did select 3 finalists from the RFQ process for the wastewater treatment design. And we have them scheduled to come present to the infrastructure committee on November 17th. I've asked for them to all submit their packets by Thursday, this coming Thursday, the 10th. So we should be able to get them out. Hopefully, we should be able to get them out in time with the pack, and it might be Monday if we're delayed the holiday. But we're looking forward to those presentations this week.
So the goal is to have those 3 companies come in, and then the committee will chew on it for a while, and we're going to meet on December 1st to make a decision and recommend to the select board who that engineering firm might be for the wastewater plant design. So it's just one more step along the way here. Okay. The next item is the loan application for the state revolving fund. This is one more piece on the way to hopefully get some grant money or loan forgiveness in the future when we go to build a water tank up on Chipman Hill. So one of the steps is to submit a loan application to the state. Back in August, you authorized Kathleen to sign an engineering agreement with Dufresne Group. When the state approved that, they approved it last week. And so Kathleen has signed that, and then it's going to go to Dufresne Group so they can get started. The next step, I said, is the DWSRF loan application. We're asking you to approve Kathleen or authorize Kathleen to sign that application when we get it complete. Basically, it's a loan application that allows us to bond for either bond for the money outright, the project outright to a bonding company, or go through the state revolving fund. Sometimes there's a little bit of a discount if you go through the revolving fund. And that also allows us to have loan forgiveness possibly in the future. So that's the first step tonight, is to authorize Kathleen to sign that application when we get it complete.
Any questions on that?
I have a couple, and just a kind of a refresher. Why are we considering a new tank? Do we need more capacity, or is it a replacement? I can't remember.
More capacity.
Yeah.
And what will the more capacity give us?
Go ahead.
No, sorry, Dan, go ahead.
All right. It'll be planned to be a 1.3 million gallon tank in addition to the 1.5 that's up there, and we're somewhat lacking on fire flows.
Okay.
At daily demand, so that's what we're going to solve.
What year would we intend to install the tank?
So the plan is to do, we'll submit the application in midwinter. Well, actually, we'll submit it now, but the process for the state comes out in usually February. We might receive word in anywhere from May to July. Regardless, the engineer is going to continue with design. Earliest could be the following year, which would be 2024.
Is there?
It really depends on funding. So that's
Are there
the schedule.
Are there potentials for grants for this?
Potential is that this DWSRF fund could be loan forgiveness. Okay. So they don't do outright grants. They usually assist municipalities with funds to design and construct, and then maybe you get a loan forgiveness. So
would this loan be paid for through the revenues from the water department, or is it assessed in taxes?
It's always by the water department or the water users, except that the board may consider to use local option tax funds if that's an option. The voters of the town approve a bond. So because the bonding capacity of this town is what's on the line, but it's usually the water users that end up paying that bond. So we try to find flow forgiveness if we can.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll just add to what Dan said. Dan, what year did we have that hydrology study done?
2018.
2018. So this particular storage and fire flows was the #1 priority on that as a result of that study.
Okay, that's
And
I
this-
missed the history of that.
Yeah, and this particular project is something that the state has been asking us to do for several years.
Okay.
So it has been vetted as a priority project for
Okay,
us.
thanks.
Okay, pleasure of the board.
I'll move to authorize Town Manager Kathleen Ramsey to sign and submit an application for drinking water state revolving loan fund or revolving fund for construction of a water storage tank at a preliminary estimated cost of $3 million.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It's unanimous. Next.
Next item is approval of declaration of intent to bond for water storage facility improvements. There's a process that has to happen to ask for go through the bond process, and so there's a declaration the board needs to declare for an official intent to bond. Now this would be for the water tank. First step, the bond request, I believe, is going to be for $3 million also.
Yes.
Yep. So, request from the board to authorize the town clerk to sign the declaration of intent.
I'll move to authorize Town Clerk Ann Webster to sign the declaration of official intent of the town of Middlebury in relation to potential bonding for the construction of a water tank for a public drinking water system.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments on this motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. I guess that's all we got for you tonight. You got anything extra?
I don't know.
Dan, did you want to give an update on Colonial Drive?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, that's
I-
Dan versus Dan.
So paving is scheduled for Wednesday morning. They thought they might be there last Friday, but the paver broke, and then they got delayed yesterday or today. So Wednesday morning is it.
One of the,
are they going as far as the raised access hole in the middle of the road at the south end of Colonial?
Yes, the southwestern leg where it sticks out into the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm surprised they haven't set that to grade, closer to grade. Is that the new pavement grade?
No, that's gonna be lower.
Oh.
Yeah,
I think they just didn't want to dig another hole and deal with that, so.
yeah.
And actually, I think the pavement thought it was gonna be sooner than it is too, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get my lawn chair out for that one.
Any-
Lemonade.
Any other good news? All right. Well, glad that the weather has held out. I'm sure they're going to pave later into the season this year. So,
Yeah.
well,
It's been a busy year for pavers.
yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Is Chief Shaw on?
Not seeing the chief.
Chief Hand is here.
I can take this one if Chief Shaw is not with us. This is Chief Dave Shaw provided a memo requesting the purchase of replacing the Chipman Hill repeater. He explained that his repeater is 25 years old with a life cycle of 20 years. The money's been set aside for years in the capital budget for the expense. So Chief Shaw explains he would like to move forward with the purchase before something happens to the repeater. The Infrastructure Committee has approved the recommendation by Chief Shaw for sole source provider Radio North Group to do this replacement in the amount of $19,993, I believe.
Yep.
Let me look.
There's an extra
It's got an extra 9 in there. I hadn't caught it when I read it first. It's 19,993. So any questions on that?
This lives on the cell tower up there?
Yeah.
I'll move to award a contract to sole source provider Radio North under the sole source provisions policy for the replacement of the Chipman Hill repeater at a total cost of $19,993.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Farhad beat you to
Oh,
it.
he did. I didn't hear.
Any other comments or questions? Here.
What does a repeater do?
Repeats.
It bounces a radio signal
Gotcha.
between receivers, basically, so it can help expand the range. So you put it up on a high, like the Chipman Hill highest point, and it just allows to expand the range.
Yep.
Good work, David.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're actually early according to the agenda, so I'm good.
We're ahead.
always
We're ahead for once. Well, and she was the comm officer in our platoon, so she's got it straight. Any other questions? So all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It's unanimous. So you can go ahead with the repeater. And I saw Chief Hanley with us.
All right, I was gonna talk about your repeater for you, but thank you for saying that. Appreciate it. It's gonna get the gist of it anyway.
They both talk radios pretty well.
Our repeater's coming up next year.
Yeah.
All right, the noise ordinance. We had some requests to look at the noise ordinance to see if we could change some of those hours. Now, just so you know how this ordinance is, and don't misinterpret anything, the only thing that has restrictive hours are loud music, essentially. Things like vocal disturbances, playing in a band and all that are not part of that ordinance, which has the restrictive hours. So the hours in the ordinance are after 10 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday, essentially Sunday through Friday. It's prima facie unreasonable noise. The ordinance currently has a 1 a.m. limit on Friday night and Saturday night. There was a request to bring those times down, so it was 10 o'clock across the board. There was a lot of discussion on this, and a motion was made, seconded, and voted on to bring that time on weekends to 11 o'clock. So you had Friday night and Saturday night, 11 o'clock would be the hour that any of this certain type of noise described in the ordinance would be a prima facie violation of the ordinance. So if somebody made a complaint, you didn't have to prove whether it was reasonable or unreasonable. Just by the virtue of those hours, it becomes unreasonable.
But if you have a band playing, it can play past 11?
It all depends. No noise can be unreasonable at any time of the day.
Yeah.
It can be unreasonable at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This one section of the ordinance, they just state that it's automatically unreasonable past these hours.
Yeah.
But there's the use of any drum, musical instrument, loudspeaker, playing of musical instruments, they don't have any time. So somebody would have to complain and we'd have to show that the noise was unreasonable. Generally speaking, if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, it's probably going to be pretty unreasonable. But it all depends on the circumstance.
Yeah. So Sue Ritter had questions. She'd had some concerns. Had she talked with you about this? And it sounds to me like it probably was a misunderstanding of what this change does to it.
Sue is in the audience.
Is Sue in the
and I'm
audience?
bringing her in as a panelist.
That'd be good.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We
Sorry.
do. Hey, Sue.
Hi, everyone.
I didn't see you were with us, so.
Yes, thanks. I got cut off for a second by when you were asking Chief Henley if we had chatted.
Right.
Is that right? Yeah, we did. I mean, I did express concern on behalf of the college, more related to the college events in town, you know, and the impacts that may have. For instance, reunion typically goes to 11:30. The Middlebury College Student Activities Board holds events involving bands and concerts and things like that. So I'm more focused on events like that, or the film festival, or even the cider fest. I'm not sure when that ends, but events that bring business, business to town and things like that. 11 o'clock seems a little early to me. And so that's our concern, just in terms of the events that are held in town in general. So.
But my understanding is that those events don't fall under this.
If it's a permitted event, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
So
This is
I don't think we normally get permission from the town to hold reunion. I don't think, Tom, are the permitted events just on town-owned land? That was the part I wasn't sure about.
it's not specific, Sue. I think the ordinance is a little bit vague and allowed to leave some for interpretation. But essentially, if there's electric sound producing devices after 11 o'clock p.m., according to the ordinance as it is amended or would be amended, then it would be a prima facie violation of the ordinance. Of course, somebody would have to complain about it.
Right.
Yeah.
That was kind of my reading of it too, so the vagaries, the vagueness of it concerns me,
The,
as much as time does.
yeah, we talked about with the committee that understanding that this affects everything. It's not just student housing. This is everybody that's having a wedding in their backyard, wedding in a field nearby other houses, and they've got a band playing till midnight or whatever. That would have an effect on just everybody. It's any kind of noise after 11 o'clock pretty much could be unreasonable.
And the decision to go from a 1 to 11 seems like a pretty big jump. Was there a rationale for that, or is there something specifically driving it? I guess was my question.
The request was to move it to 10 o'clock, which was in keeping with the Burlington noise ordinance. The committee discussed it and came up with a number of events, routine events, which went past 10 o'clock in the summers, the movies at Swift House, the festival on the Green, et cetera, and decided that 10 o'clock was not feasible and that 11 o'clock might work.
Dan?
This doesn't mean that an event has to shut down at 11 o'clock.
That's right.
This just means that the event doesn't have to be noisy. And for example, Sue, the Middlebury Film Festival is not noisy anytime, and I don't think Reunion's a noisy event at any time. So most of these issues would not be an issue. Just can't be noisy, and most of them are not.
And there's a lot of things that aren't part of that time period. Yelling, talking, the kind of things we mostly get noise complaints about. There is no prima facie time with them. I mean, that could be noisy at 3 PM. It could be noisy at 11 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. It really is, the time periods really add a lot of confusion to this ordinance, because it could be noisy anytime. If the noise is unreasonable noise, the only thing with the time limit doesn't have to be unreasonable. It's per se unreasonable if it's after this particular hours.
And I think that's my concern, is we don't have any control over a neighbor, for instance, on South Street calling about Reunion. Now that the time has moved to 11, I suspect that there will be calls now. And if it's prima facie, we wouldn't have a defense to that, it seems like, unless there's some provision in the ordinance, perhaps an amendment that says we can apply for some sort of a exception or something. I'm not sure.
But they could call it 9 o'clock and complain. There was the only time in my 16 years at the Swift House did a police officer come with noise. It was 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday night, because there was a complaint and the police officers asked us to turn the music down for a wedding.
Right.
Yeah, I think the difference is it's prima facie versus there has to be a finding of unreasonableness before 11 o'clock. I think that's the distinction that's holding us up, I think.
Have we ever had a complaint about an event at the college like
No,
alumni gathering?
I don't, not coming off of the college itself, the facility, no. No, the committee tossed this about for an hour. We heard from the Tennies were there. John McPartlin was there, giving us their side of things and their view of things. And at the end of that, this is what came out of it. Again, this is just an informational presentation at this point. There'd be a public hearing on this where you'd actually take testimony from people that wanted to participate in the process.
So this motion is just to move us forward in the process.
If you feel like you want to move forward on this.
Right. It would require a hearing for us to amend the noise ordinance.
If you were inclined to do it, this is just a recommendation from a committee that took some testimony, deliberated, and came out with this recommendation.
Thoughts from the board?
I agree that It is very narrow, right? This is about electronic, I forget the exact term, but, right, it's about amplified electronic noise in particular that these hours apply to and create the prima facie violation. But it also like is the signal that these are the quiet hours in this town. It's kind of, even though the ordinance and the particular enforcement is specific, it does kind of set the, hey, it's after 11, you should be quiet kind of guidance.
I mean, the specific language is, when it says the times, shall be deemed unreasonable whenever any person shall make a complaint of disturbance during such hours. And that's specifically related to electronic sound producing devices. Right. Amplified sound, essentially.
We don't have any places like the Alibi and the Rosebud and those anymore, so. I can think of the days back when the 1 o'clock was critical. But
I worry about the vagueness, and I'm wondering if certain events could come to us with a request saying, I'm putting on this event and I'm looking for some, ease on a noise ordinance for this event. And I'm wondering like what role we would play on that, what role the town could play on that. Like, so we're meeting Sue where she's at. If there is reunion, if there is a town event, they're checking in with us, recognizing, yes, it might be 11 o'clock, but for this event specifically, we would like some ease on it. I'm wondering if that's a possibility and something that we could put in the ordinance.
There was a request some years ago to create an ordinance for an entertainment district in the immediate downtown area where the restaurants and things are. That would not be involved in a noise ordinance. That was the response to this, and that went nowhere.
That's the other hand.
I have a question.
go ahead.
I just want to be sure I'm understanding. So somebody playing music from a loudspeaker would fall under this, but somebody playing instruments would not?
Correct.
That's correct.
Yes.
But
Okay. I appreciate the effort to give people some leeway, but in this instance, somebody having a wedding that can't afford a band gets penalized, but somebody who can afford a band does not.
I think those are violations regardless if the noise is unreasonable. This is just about a prima facie, you can't have amplified electronic noise after this hour.
And somebody has to complain about it.
And somebody has to complain about it.
So essentially, if it's bothering somebody after 11 o'clock at night.
Any noise.
No.
Noise that's electronically amplified.
So if somebody's having a wedding in a field and it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon and a band is playing and somebody complains and says it's too loud, then an officer would be dispatched out there and ask them to turn the music down.
The officer would have to make an assessment as to whether it was unreasonable or not. I don't like being put in that subjective position. But if it's during the day, how loud is it where these people are? We don't carry decibel meters. I don't even want to get into that. They would make an assessment and at least advise the people that, look, and you turn it down, you're bothering your neighbors. I mean, there wouldn't be any enforcement action on something like that.
Right. But they might go out and just say.
Oh, they'd go out. Yeah, we got a complaint. We'd follow up on it.
Hey, Brian. Just talk about the number of noise ordinances we get, that there aren't few from the colleges, typically town versus town.
Yeah, the vast majority of noise complaints have nothing to do with students. I mean, they are all over town, generally with neighbors, bothering neighbors. Many of them are in the downtown area, but a smaller number are by students. And of that number, it's down to about 3 places that we've had the most complaints. And in the past month, over a month, we haven't had any complaints at the places that generated this discussion. 14 Cross Street is really the only one that seems to be a continuing issue.
Versailles.
But we respond to every noise complaint, no matter the time of the day, and we advise the people that there's some noise and it's bothering other people, and most people are courteous and will either turn it down or refocus their energy to do other things.
Uh-oh.
Sue, do you have you had complaints from neighbors about noise up at the college that didn't go to chief?
Brian, I'm not sure, if we had, they didn't come to me. I can check with DPS about that. But again, if it was on the weekend, we wouldn't have because we had till 1 o'clock. I mean, yes, the unreasonableness thing would have still applied, but I think it's a lot easier if you have a prima facie situation than it is to put an officer in a position of making a subjective determination. I think, maybe that's why, but I don't have the right, the answer to that, but I can try to find out for you, Brian, if that would help.
Yeah, I guess I'm inclined to think that people will complain whenever they're, regardless of what the ordinance is, but this provides at least some authority to the officer to ask you to reduce the level of noise. Burlington's is 10 o'clock?
I don't remember, Andy, do you remember what it said? We reviewed it
Yeah.
several weeks ago. I think they've got an early one and then they've weekends. This was modeled after the Burlington ordinance. And the times were drawn from the Burlington ordinance for the weekend. So I don't know if they've changed it. I don't remember what their ordinance said.
Ten PM.
Burlington?
So Burlington's 10 p.m.? I think it would be good to just continue with the process of having the hearing and see what people say. Because we still have to wait to hear what people say, and then we would vote on it after that, right?
Oh, yeah. You'd have to take testimony and then set up for a public hearing.
Yeah.
Somewhere down the road. And then after the public hearing.
That would give you a chance, Sue, to just kind of feel it out at the college and so that we're making an informed decision. But I get a sense that it may not be an issue, and it may provide at least some authority for your police officers when they go in. And 1 o'clock is pretty late in some of the residential areas. 11 o'clock seems pretty reasonable.
Most of the complaints we get are after midnight, the noise complaints.
Yeah.
We just don't get too many calls before 11. Although we get them at 9:30, but most of those are intra-neighbor kind of complaints.
Yeah, I think 30 years ago, I called after midnight over here on South Street, and then they started coming over and inviting us to their party and letting us know what they had going on. And it changed, they smartened up. But they had their speakers right at our bedroom. So more than anything, it's all about communication and try to get buy-in from your neighbors. If you're gonna have a wedding or something like that, you're gonna let everybody know typically, right? And isn't that what you guys used to do? Or?
We do, and we know that there's activities, especially the backyard weddings, that go on till way past midnight, and they're shooting fireworks and everything else. But we don't get any calls. We can't be the complainant of a noise ordinance violation. We can't. We can see them, but we don't interfere. It's got to be a third party with a complaint that it's bothering. And most of the weddings and those type of social activities, everybody else is involved somehow, or they're aware of it, and there's some tolerance.
Yeah.
Where the tolerance falls really low is when it happens over and over again in the same place.
Yeah. I don't know, Art. I think it's reasonable to proceed with the hearing process. It's never good.
No.
Okay. Thoughts from the select board done here? Anything else?
Do we need to make a motion to schedule a public hearing? I'll move to, I don't know what the statute's numbers are, but I'll move to warn a public hearing to take public testimony on the amended noise ordinance recommended by the Public Health and Safety Committee.
Not amended yet, right?
Right, proposed amendments.
Okay.
How's that?
That's good.
Okay.
Moved and seconded. Comments on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. So we'll go to the next step, Chief.
Sure.
And Sue, can you give us some data? What your thoughts are after you've, or actually, I think you should probably make sure you are there to fill us all in. So if there's questions,
Okay,
okay?
yep, thank you everyone for your time.
Okay, thanks, Sue.
Thank you for being here.
Good night.
Bye.
And then,
This is the only one on the board that's up after 11 o'clock any night of the week.
You know,
is Elise with us?
I was reading this and I was like,
You a wild one?
am I representing these
I
college
just
kids
asked-
right now?
You want to do it or want me to do it?
Sure, either way. Okay, so I've been teed up by the chairman to talk about the Addison County Community Trust Agreement with the National Bank of Middlebury and the town of Middlebury. It's fairly straightforward. The Addison County Community Trust was successful in a grant application for the Lindale Mobile Home Park septic system. And generally what happens is we ask for reimbursement from the Vermont Community Development Program, and we put the reimbursement to Lindale Mobile Home Park to ease their financing burden with the National Bank of Middlebury. We would be paying the National Bank instead of reimbursing the Lindale Mobile Home Park Addison County Community Trust.
Direct payment,
Direct payment.
just simplify it.
Seems to make sense.
Any questions? Pleasure of the board.
I'll move to authorize the town manager, Kathleen Ramsey, to sign the payment agreement for the administration of VCDP grant funding for Lindale Mobile Home Park Septic System Improvement Project as a duly authorized agent of the town.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, it's unanimous again. Next is check warrants. Heather?
I reviewed the check warrants on Friday and found them in good order. I'll move to approve total expenditures in the amount of $6,954,285.49, consisting of $6,847,146.31 for accounts payable and $107,139.18 for payroll for the period of October 26, 2022 through November 7th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
So that was included the school tax payment and a bond payment,
Was a
which
bond.
was why the amount was
Yep.
higher than usual.
That somebody maybe had bought a lot of tickets for the lottery. You see that 1 point some odd?
1.6 coming up, right?
I won
It's
$8
two.
the other day.
2 billion.
2 billion?
2 billion.
Wow.
Funny money.
Buy this town.
Oh, we don't sell that cheap.
I'd build the EDI for us.
Hey, would you? I like that. I hope you win. Okay. Board member concerns. We're going to start with Dan.
Good, nothing, thank you.
Heather?
I think I'm all, just like Dan mentioned earlier, we've changed the infrastructure committee meeting schedule a little bit to accommodate getting the engineering firms here to present to us. So if anyone's interested in wanting to attend, we're a little off schedule. So.
Okay. Andy?
I'm sorry I missed the town facilities tour on Friday. My day was so packed and crazy. I didn't even get a chance to mention I couldn't make it, and I'm sorry about that.
So we'll reschedule for you.
I'm sure.
Is he?
I did the town facilities tour and it was awesome. And I wish that a lot of people got to do something similar to that because it put a lot of the items that are on the capital budget into my eyes and into a really important perspective that I went off and I shared it with the ladies that I spin with at Vermont Sun, shared it with my friends who were, my age. So it really put into perspective for them the need for the projects on the capital budget. So I thought that was awesome. And Dan and Emily were great tour guides. And also tomorrow's election day. So make sure you go and vote from 7 to 7.
I'll be there from 12:45 to 7:30, so you can come say hi to me.
I will be there from 7 p.m. until all of the write-ins have been properly tabulated.
Same.
I'll be there day after tomorrow.
Farhad?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else has noticed, there's a lot more people on the streets, homeless population. I've noticed this year compared to, I've been in this town 27 years and there have been people camping behind my store. I had somebody who was actually cooking right behind the back door. After I closed the store, I had to call the police. I feel bad for them. They don't have a place to go. It's going to get cold. With the housing crisis that we are dealing with, I don't know how. I'm pretty sure Charter House and everything is going to be booked full, right?
I don't know.
So I see a lot. I don't know if you noticed or not. And the second thing is I'm thankful that I've been here 27 years in this town. So, yesterday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you for being here.
Lindsay?
There's a 10-cent store then.
Since Farhad mentioned the unhoused population, I just thought we should take the opportunity to say that folks can go to the police station if they need to warm up. It's not worth freezing over as we move into winter. And the other thing I was going to say is that the Teen Center has changed its name to the Teen Center. Because it's what everybody calls us. We went through a lengthy process with the teens. It was almost unanimously, the name that they all wanted. It's what they call us anyway, and it solves the problem of our name being Addison Central Teens, our website being Mid-Teens, and people calling us the Teen Center, which is very confusing. And we do have a new website, and we are trying to keep a lot of activities on the calendar for anyone 12 and up. So you should check out our new site, which is teencentervt.org.
Very cool.
Dan's the first one to sign up.
Yep.
Totally.
It's above my.
We're gonna build some birdhouses this month if you want to come. You gotta bring a teenager, but well, adults are welcome. We actually have parent and teen events on the calendar all this year.
I've got plenty of teens I can loan to Dan.
Yes, you.
Bring someone.
Yeah.
I have granddaughters who are teenagers.
And you probably have comments, but can I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
Thank you for that feedback, Izzy. That's really good to know, about, raising people's awareness. And I think it's a good reminder of some of the things we've done in the past, like, remember when we did the water display in the National Bank of
And
Middlebury?
way back, we chartered one of the buses and took a group around, anybody that wanted to.
That's a good idea.
The Select Board, Infrastructure Committee,
Yeah, we did
and
that, for Creek Road. Yeah, anyway, thank you for that reminder.
Of course.
It would be great to figure out how to do something like that for the town, for interested citizens. So anyway, I just want to say that. I forget.
Well, those were my comments. I actually,
Sorry.
no, it wasn't the same. Yours were better. But I was thinking that, it's a shame more people don't vote because it's really not practical for us to get all the town to go do a tour like that. You can get, a bus would be good because you'd populate a lot, but it's like the telephone game, one person's interpretation, pretty soon it changes. There's nothing better though than giving them that pictorial display. And I was thinking to myself, how do we show the town the areas that are weak? And when we're asking for $3 million bond here or bond there, how our presentation of it. And I think that, we can talk about it here, but a picture's worth 1,000 words. And that's all I was thinking.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to get to an elected official position to know all the great things that our town is doing, and also the desperate need in like the areas that drive the town and drive the town budget.
Unfortunately, there's not a lot of people call and ask for a tour of the wastewater treatment plant. For one thing.
Especially
In fact, when we go through the budget process, we do the hearings with nobody
Yeah.
nobody sitting here.
Yeah.
That's always sad.
Part of you won.
At least one
Yes.
person, I was going to say.
Victoria, we
will
can
be there.
count on Victoria to make sure that somebody's reading it and holding us accountable.
So Elise from Addison County Community Trust was running late, and she is here. I was just going to bring her in and say hi. Hi, Elise.
Hi, sorry to be late.
So we went through that. I didn't know if you might have any request in addition to that or outline any concerns.
Glad it went smoothly. And we have other things to get to and it's late, but just an update that we are opening bids on this project on November 17th. We are still waiting for A&R to make one final funding award announcement, but are optimistic that we're going to be able to get under construction finally in 2023.
Wow.
That's the update.
Great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
How about expansion of low-income housing? Any projects that you're looking at within the community?
Nothing in the pipeline in Middlebury, with the exception that we are still talking to Summit and, hoping to possibly partner with them on the Seminary Street project to get some of the housing moving faster. But we're, on the lookout for sites in Middlebury. We'd love to build another multifamily apartment building in downtown Middlebury.
Yes, please.
When you say downtown Middlebury, is anywhere's within walking distance acceptable, or what's the vision?
Yeah, usually within half a mile of the designated downtown. Really, most places in the Heritage Industrial, the HDR, and whatever the new VRC, the mixed use designation is, but there seems to be more opportunity in Heritage Industrial and HDR.
Okay.
I'm wondering if, it's early days, but if the project moves forward with Monroe Street, that little sliver of land, I don't know what could fit on it, but it would be something the town owned.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Monroe Street. The really sort of high level is we need, with the new zoning, this has changed a little bit, but it's typically about 2 acres to put together enough units for an apartment building that works with the low-income housing tax credit funding model. But it's a state level topic. The things that we want to put in our development pipeline, but can't because of that funding, the funding isn't there. So, we're always trying to keep our eye on what may be coming down the pike from the state that might allow us to tackle different kinds of projects.
Well, cool. Thanks for the update, Elise.
I read the article about the potential sidewalk extension out towards Stone Hill to the south of Middlebury. I think that's another great spot to keep an eye on for development.
That's some years out, though.
Yes, that would be a long-term plan.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Elise.
Thank you. Sorry I was late. Have a great rest of your night.
Okay. You too.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, we need an executive session on real estate matters.
In accordance with Vermont's open meeting law requirements, I move that the board find that premature general knowledge of the consideration of real estate matters would clearly place the select board at a substantial disadvantage because the select board risks disclosing its litigation strategy if it discusses the real estate matters in public.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
I further move that the board enter into executive session to discuss real estate matters under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of the Vermont statutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We will enter executive session at 8:21.